All right. Well, it's official now. Ani Boujou, everybody. My name's Sam. I'm a second year environmental justice student at the School for Environment and Sustainability. And I have the pleasure of giving our land acknowledgement tonight. So I've had the privilege of living, working, and learning in the traditional homelands of the Anishinaabe my whole life. The Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi people lived on and stewarded this land long before settlers ever created the colonial state, which now allows me to live here. To this day, the University of Michigan benefits financially from Anishinaabe lands that were ceded to the federal government in the 1817 treaty at the foot of the rapids. With this statement, I acknowledge and denounce the societal and state-sanctioned violence, theft, and genocide inflicted on Indigenous peoples to benefit settlers and colonial powers. These words are not enough, but may they serve as a reminder that we all must take actions to restore right relations and stand in solidarity with the Anishinaabe, the first people of this land. And with that, I would like to welcome our three guests tonight. Our first is Joseph VanAlstine. We also have Rosebud Bear Schneider and Stephanie Chau. And if I pronounced your name wrong, I deeply apologize. Please pronounce it correctly for us. Thank you all for coming. We're really looking forward to learning from you. And I think just to start, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, how you see fit, and give us a little background on your work, we'd be really grateful to hear that.
Stephanie, you go first.
Is this an age thing?
You said it.
Very well. My name is Stephanie Chau. I am so excited to be here with the MANRRS fam and all of your guests tonight. MANRRS holds a special place in my heart. Again, I am from Michigan State University. My name is Stephanie Chau. I am one of the co-advisors of the MANRRS, which obviously you know stands for Minorities in Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences at MSU. And we are the founding chapter, and we couldn't be more excited to have your chapter founded recently and to be a part of that and to be invited here. So I can talk about myself a little bit, but I'm a Little River Band of Ottawa Indians. So I love the land acknowledgement you gave, and without the land, there can be no agriculture or food sovereignty for anyone. So the land is really critical in this. And I just want to acknowledge tonight that yes, we are on my ancestors' land and my land. And you know what? We want it back. So, and we need that for food sovereignty. So, you know, that is a big part of it. So I just wanted to thank you. That is a really powerful actual land acknowledgement that you read. I think it's one of the better land acknowledgements that I've heard. So I appreciate that. And I think that is critical because that also has played a big role in how Indigenous foods have changed over time and how we hope to get back to more of our traditional and more healthy foods. And I'm hoping that that will be a part of the conversation. So thank you again for having me, and I'll turn it over to Rosebud.
Ani Boujou, Bamasanoko Indigenous Makododam, Wawia Tanang and Donjuba, Anishinaabe and Dao. My name is Rosebud Bear Schneider. My spirit name means woman who journeys. I'm Bear Clan. I call Detroit my home, but my blood represents all of Turtle Island. My ancestors are from Mexico and Wisconsin and Oklahoma. It's a real honor to be asked by Dolores. I'm gonna have to tell everybody Dolores. I went to school with Dolores's mom and her aunt, and I've known their family my whole life. So it's a real honor to be asked to be a part of this panel. So miigwech, and I'll turn it over to Joe.
Miigwech Rosebud. Always save the best for last, so thank you. But Ani Buju, Ziibimijwang Farm, Waganaksingo Dao Andao, Nishnaba Andao, Jijak and Dodum. My name is Joseph VanAlstine. I'm from the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians, and I'm Crane Clan. So, a little bit about myself. The Crane Clan are the hereditary, speakers, for the clans and orders. So I do like to talk a lot. So this job that I do here, kind of fits right in with what historically and culturally we have done. So, with that, I chair Ziibimijwang Inc. or Farm, which is a 300-acre farm located in northern Michigan. I'm also the food distribution program director for the tribe. And then I also sit on the National Association of Food Distribution Programs on Indian reservations that represents 103 different Indian tribal organizations throughout the country. And our main job is to make commodities better than what it was. So, but I'm excited to be here tonight. I'm excited to share with you and, learn from the rest of the panel that's on here. So again, miigwech. Misaway.
Thank you all so much for those wonderful introductions. I love the opener with land back. So thanks for doing that for us, Stephanie. Such a pleasure to have you all. And I guess, what do we want to start with? The first question I have here is for Joe and Rosebud, and we'd like to know how your work on the farm has helped create a reliable food source for the community, and what do you feel has been the most impactful aspect? And I'm going to add to that, Joey, if you could give like your 2-sentence or however long you want, really, but for those who don't know, what are commodities, and how's the farm making them amazing and healthy and delicious?
Oh, so commodities is the food distribution program on Indian reservations. Commodities has several different iterations throughout its history. Right now we call it food distribution. It used to be called commodities. Now it would be called surplus. And it's also part of the some of the treaty rights out there for some of the tribes that the United States government will provide food for those natives that signed those treaties. So, but over the years, commodities has started the epidemic of diabetes and the other diseases that affect us as tribal people. And so with that, there's some of us who are working on the inside to change that and make that food better and more culturally appropriate. Because when they did take us off our homelands and put us on different reservations, it's taken away that food source that we culturally grew up with or were accustomed to. So with that, we're trying to make the food package more reliable, and but that's how we all talk about food sovereignty and what we're doing to make that better. So but to go back to your question, how has Ziibimijwang been a reliable food source for our community, and what do we feel the most impactful aspect of the farm is? I think the most impactful aspect right now is hiring of Rosebud. Really, I'm just saying, not to toot her horn, but really, that to hire a strong Anishinaabe woman to come in here and help lead our food sovereignty efforts is really important, and I think that's very crucial to what we do. And so I think that part is really great. We got a great team behind us who work hard and all kind of see the same vision of what we want food sovereignty to look like for Little Traverse. So with that, and again, I could tell you the whole story of Ziibimijwang, but we don't have enough time for that. But really, we're still in our infancy phases, even though, yeah, we're doing good, we're looking great, but we're still in our infant stages of really, truly, grasping for the community what food sovereignty looks like. So, but I'll turn that over to Rosebud and have her share her.
Yeah, stop talking. Sorry. Joe and I are like brother and sister, so you guys are going to see a little bit of that. Yeah, I've been farming in Detroit. I'm originally from Detroit. And I will just tell you this. I've known Joe for about, how long? Like 3 years now. And I toured this farm back in 2017 when I was attending MSU for the Organic Farmers Training Program. And I like fell in love, and I told him like, this is my dream farm and I would love to work here one day. And as fate had it, here I am now. Farming and food sovereignty has always been a huge part of my life, even though I didn't know what that was, what it was called or what I was really doing. That it's always driven me. And I will say, being a reliable food source for any community that I'm in is something that I'm entirely passionate about. I want to be that person that you can rely on, and I want to be that source. So I'm really glad that Ziibimijwang has a place for me to do that. And I think as far as like the most impactful aspect of the farm for me, is just being able to have this connection with this land here and grow out our indigenous seeds, but also, we often live in two worlds all the time, and having a space to, grow your, tomatoes and like squash and potatoes and, take it to market, but also, have a space to like have that connection with our ancestors, with our seed ancestors. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I'm glad that I have a much bigger space to do that. So, yeah.
Beautiful answers. What a great way to, find your perfect farm, because I can relate, it's, you want to find it. You're always looking for that perfect place to be with the food. So Stephanie, we're going to come to you next. And the question here is, how have your connections to food education and stewardship brought you where you are today at MSU and within the communities you're a part of?
So that's a really long story, like Joe was saying about the farm. But I'll share a little bit. I wear many hats in my role. I serve as the Assistant Director for Undergraduate Diversity in the College of Agriculture and Natural Resources at Michigan State. So in that role, I support a lot of diverse students who are pursuing degrees, trying to support them, encourage them, and give them the help that they need to be successful in our college. But one of the key reasons why I applied for this job and took this job, and I've been doing this in this position for 12 years now, is the program that I get to coordinate for Native youth. So I coordinate the Michigan Indian Leadership Program at Michigan State, which is a program that exposes Native youth in 8th through 12th grade to opportunities at MSU, how to apply for college, studying for the, high stakes testing, and just exploring all of the opportunities in agriculture and natural resources. And to be honest, when I got to MSU, I didn't know a thing about agriculture. I mean, in the sense of what it means more in the kinds of programming that Michigan State offers in the college. So my background, my educational background is in teaching. So I graduated with a secondary certificate in history and in Spanish minor. So I wanted to connect with my Southern brothers and sisters as much as possible. And my own language wasn't offered at that time. So I'm a little bit older, well into my 50s. So there weren't as many opportunities then, and I wasn't aware of those. So I think my educational journey to get where I am is kind of long. I wanted to help Native students. I wanted them to see opportunities, and they need a seat at the table. I think Indigenous voices, and I'm so excited about the work that Rosebud and Joe are doing, because is it's exactly the kind of thing I'm trying to inspire. And I need to get you all to come to my program and talk to the youth about the work that you're doing, because that's exactly what I aim to do in my work with the Michigan Indian Leadership Program. So I want to inspire Native youth to learn about agriculture, and they want to give back to their communities. Almost all Native students want to find a pathway that's going to allow them to do something they're passionate about, but also give back to their communities. And I think agriculture and natural resources are a fantastic way for students to do that. So I'm trying to inspire that next generation, because the food sovereignty movement in Indigenous foods is so important right now. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And it's so exciting to see. And I'm hoping to prepare the next generation. I'm hoping to grow the next generation of food sovereignty activists and workers. So that's a little bit about my journey, but I think for me, it's all about the students and how I can help them and support them and get them to see opportunity. I didn't know I didn't know there was animal science or horse management or food science or packaging or any of the wonderful opportunities that are available in agriculture. And I just think if our students, a lot of the students that I work with haven't ruled those out, they just don't know about them. So I'm just trying to spread awareness about the opportunities, because Indigenous people need a seat at the dinner table, and I need a seat at the dinner table because I love food. That's the other reason why I do what I do.
So in the spirit of that, Joe and Rosebud, how the heck do you become a farmer? Because that is one of the things, that's how I asked this question of myself. I think a lot of the kids want to know this, because farming is hard. It's hard work. But I think so many people, when they're introduced to it, when they start doing it, it speaks to them, it's meaningful, it's good work. But how do you become a farmer? But then also, how do you be a farmer? Like in today's world, how do you balance it all? How do you do like I'm gonna go be a farmer, or maybe I'm just gonna hobby farm and I got to do this 9 to 5 thing? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't really know how I do all of this.
You should see
being
her
real
text to me. She's like, I'm tired. Rosebud. That was her text to me. So she's tired.
I'm tired. I didn't start with a background in farming. I didn't have anybody to say, hey, you could make a career out of this, or you're really good at, I see you love to grow tomatoes. You should, no one ever guided me. But I always looked up to, in Detroit, there's a huge urban ag community, and it's been like that my entire life. And I always looked up to that, farmers in Detroit. I thought they were so cool, and my parents would take me to Eastern Market, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. I love this so much. And we always had a garden growing up. And I would joke all the time, like, I want to be a farmer. I want my own farm, and I want to grow this and I want to grow that. And everybody thought I was joking, until someone was like, no, you should actually do that. You could figure that out. And I mean, really, I have to say that, I worked for American Indian Health and Family Services in Detroit for the last 10 years before I moved up here. And if it weren't for the projects that I worked on there, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. They really gave me the opportunity and space and support to keep on getting educated and to help me like hone in on my passion and keep keep moving forward. So I mean, I will say that my advice is to reach out to folks that you look up to, that are doing the kind of work that you want to do. You plant a seed, you grow a vegetable, you're a farmer. I mean, quite literally. I didn't think that this could be like a real career, and I'm really glad that I've had people in my corner that have supported me. I will tell this story. Joey and I had lunch a while ago when I came up here to tour the farm, and we were talking, and he was like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a farmer. And he looked at me like, what? And then in that moment, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm a farmer. Like, I'm growing stuff. I know what I'm doing. And, you know, in that moment, I owned it. And after I did that, I mean, things started to kind of fall in place for me. It still took Joe 2 years to get me up here, but, you know, it's a path in the making. But, I mean, it is hard work. It's not glamorous. Every growing season is different. Our growing season up here is really short. That's not anything that I'm super used to. So, I mean.
Oh, you've never tried to grow food in the UP. Oh, it's so much worse. Oh.
I mean, we're pretty north though. Like we're the tip of the mitt. I mean, we're there. Our season is pretty short too. So, you know, again, like I'll just reiterate, I think that, you know, if that's something that you're really interested in, don't be shy. Don't second guess yourself. Don't wait until you're 40 to try to be a farmer. You know, I think that groups like this it's amazing. And it's so refreshing to see like you young folks being super into this like that. That makes me so happy. So yeah. Joey, you got anything?
Oh, you should have saw my my garden this year. It was amazing. But like, you know, really what, you know, I didn't necessarily grow up farming. You know, my grandfather, you know, he had, you know, his 2 acres that he farmed on, you know, and he grew his own corn and beans and squash. And, you know, and so, yeah, I learned early about picking weeds. I didn't learn about the rest of the stuff, just picking weeds. So, but that taught me hard work, right? But then also, you know, the other thing is, you know, we, you know, growing up as kids, you know, we would go and, you know, pick strawberries to sell. We would, you know, go up to the UP and pick blueberries to, you know, come back and, you know, sell. And, you know, we'd work in the woods during the winter time, you know, in the cedar swamps and making boughs like we're doing for Christmas wreaths. So all this stuff, you know, I've always been outside working and, you know, eating those very traditional berries that we have. And so, but that also taught me, you know, hard work and sales and, you know, all that other stuff that comes along with that. Not necessarily putting a seed in the ground and watching it grow. But, you know, when I started my job as a food distribution director, it was just kind of handed to me. And they were like, Joe, you're our food guy. And really, you know, within our tribe, you know, we don't have a lot for food code. We don't have, no one's ever really thought about it. You know, you look at our stuff and it's very, very minimal. So, and we don't have an agriculture department. We don't have, you know, a food sovereignty department or program or like some other, you know, tribes are trying to do right now. You know, they just said, we're going to go out and, you know, buy a farm and farm it. And so when I started on Ziibimijwang, it was an actual, they were, you know, really looking at it to be a very traditional farm, right? We're going to grow acres and acres of, you know, beans and carrots and corn, you know, and wheat and rye. We're going to have cows and, you know, all of this very traditional sense of what a farm was. And when we actually looked at our charter and I read it, I was like, that's not what we're trying to do. You know, let's get back to the nature and let's get back to, you know, producing, you know, traditional foods for us to eat and reconnect with. So yeah, that's what we're doing. And that's what I've been doing for the past 10 years is, you know, working on that food. But what makes it rewarding for me, I think was that part of your question, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right. I don't know. It's like, you know, I love seeing you know, when they come into my work and, you know, the parent hands them, you know, a grape or a strawberry and the baby eats it and the kid eats it, you know, just the joy in their face when they eat it. I mean, to me, that's just like the most rewarding part of all the work that I do is I get to see, you know, these babies eat and, you know, see that joy on their face. And talking about bringing youth up, you know, that's also important. That's something that we really have tried to do. We worked with our natural resource department, and they have a youth conservation corps, and they bring those kids out every summer to do different jobs within the tribe, regardless of what it is. If it's like fishing, if it's farming, if it's working, doing water quality, all these different aspects that these youth may not have access to or know what it is. They bring them out, and so I try to hire those kids and bring them back out so they can come out and work. And I think the two that we had come out this year, they didn't do the youth conservation corps this year because of COVID, but you know what, we hired them on the farm to come out and work, and those youth, they worked their tails off, didn't they? COVID.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
To me, that's also important, because that's, again, you're planting that seed in them and they're growing, up. And I like to see that as well. So.
I love that. The young people are so important. I think there are a lot of young people on the call today. And so I think, myself included, we all appreciate just hearing everybody's path into the work that you're doing. And I think one, important piece of that path is just your own personal connections. Everybody has a favorite relation on the farm. It could be a plant or an animal or somebody who's stealing your beans. I don't know anybody. So one of the questions we got was, what plant relatives, and I'm going to say animal relatives too, and maybe any of the other relatives you can think of, what do you feel a special kinship with on where you live, in your garden, on the farm, or something that has helped you, a special relation that's helped bring you to this path? And Stephanie, why don't you go? You haven't talked as recently.
So you know what? I'm just so excited about the information that Rosebud and Joe and the enthusiasm they're able to share. I think for me, maybe the berries or maybe the strawberries. So when I worked in my tribal education department, we started the first community gardens that we had there. And this would have been like early 2000s in Manistee. And I think the strawberries really spoke to me. I mean, we grew a lot of good medicine. So like for us, the strawberries are called a daemon, and they're heart berries. And that, I'm a big hearted person, sometimes too big, which, can also be a fault at times. But I think for me, it was the strawberries. I just felt a really strong connection with those and their importance in our culture. And, food is just so important in every culture, but I just feel like it's elevated in the Native community because of all of our stories. I mean, our migration stories, our months are even named after the foods that we traditionally ate. So it's just so incredibly important. And for me, I feel like I had a connection with the strawberries, but we also had a Three Sisters garden. We also had, tried to grow some tobacco. I'm not going to say it was totally successful, but we tried. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about agriculture and indigenous foods is it takes work. I mean, and sometimes it doesn't always work out. So and our strawberries did really well, and the deer love to eat them too. So.
What about you, Rosebud?
I love and hate this question because I don't want to just choose one. I think for me, the philosophy behind the Three Sisters, the Three Sisters story, really resonated with me, and that's something that I've been carrying with me, and that's really what it's been guiding me. I love that interdependence between those three sisters. I love what that means. I love that you can, learn from them, and also it's a symbiotic relationship. But corn is a really big part of my life. The first year we grew corn, or the first year I grew corn in Detroit, I guess before that, it hadn't really done well. And we were real careful about what kind of varieties we were putting in that year. And that was the first year that we were able to like actually harvest like quite a few like pounds and like fill like gallon jugs of it, like 5-gallon buckets of corn. And that's, corn is part of our creation story. And that's something that is, really touches me. And, I have a corn tattooed on my arm. Like I have a deep relationship and a deep respect for corn and all of the ways that it sustains us. And you have to really work for it, to think about dried corn and then it getting all the way to like a tortilla or cornmeal. There's a lot that goes into it. And I'm learning that as I go along, and I'm respect that ancestor, that sister so much. So I would say corn if I have to choose one.
I make a point to only hang out with people who have vegetables tattooed on their bodies. So that's awesome. What about you, Joe?
Well, I want a corn tattoo.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Sorry, I just have a tree and a turtle. My bad, right? But and I think for me, really, it is. As I explained, like traditional foods and coming back, I always talk about, because fishing is part of agriculture too, right? Like, so, and when I try to talk to people about the food we eat or the menomen, you're tasting the same stuff that your ancestors ate, right? And so to me, that just is a really strong connection. So, when you eat, menomen from one lake to a different lake, it has a different taste, and you can tell the differences, right? And so, I mean, you can put like 6 different menomen dishes up and taste them, and people will be like, oh, that's from Ness Lake, or that's from Mud Lake, or that's and so for me to have that connection with that, I think is really important, because I know that's the same fish my ancestors ate or the same menomen they ate. But then again, I don't want to jump on the bandwagon, but really corn and this connection that we have with corn, coming back to our community and with our stories of when we learn these songs and start learning, they'll start coming back to us. And right now, obviously, Sam, you're part of the Indigenous collaborative food garden down there at U of M, and that corn is coming back to us. And I know Dave's on here. I've seen him, and the last 3 years of corn that was grown in this area is sitting in your guys' archives, and it's wanting to come home. And so for me, that is just a life goal, is to start bringing that stuff back home. And I think it's really calling to us right now with the work that we're doing. It's saying, please come, and so corn, Mandam.
All right, so I think that I have 2 questions as follow up to this, and one of them Joshua is thinking of as well. So I'm going to read his question. He says that I work in native food and I'm interested in farming, but I wonder if it would be hard to compromise between indigenous and conventional farming practices. How do you approach that compromise? And are there things you want to work towards to continue indigenizing farming? And this is something I also have thought a lot about in the context of how do you create new traditions, and how do you honor the past and honor those practices, and also as a living culture create new ones? And so I'd like your thoughts on that.
That's loaded questions right there.
Well, so I think I'll just go ahead and answer that one. Really, with us and Ziibimijwang, when it came to be, they were like, you're a nonprofit and you have to be self-sufficient. We'll help you out. The tribe was like, we'll help you out, right? So again, when it comes to conventional farming and farming, Rosebud doesn't come cheap either. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? we want to make sure we pay our farmers the best, you know, and so, you know, that requires, you know, good hard work as well. So, but with that, you know, we do have to get into the markets. You know, we do have to, you know, look at selling. And, you know, we talk about our Three Sisters garden up in front of the barn. And with that, you know, we do, you know, the Three Sisters in there, and we try to make it, you know, really traditional up there. But then we have what I call our production field, what you would see behind me, you know, where we can go ahead and, you know, grow out, you know, 2 acres of corn. We can grow out, you know, 64-foot rows of beans, and, you know, whatever we need to do, you know, back in that side. So that's where the compromise comes in. And, you know, we have the ability to, you know, bring people in and show them, you know, this is how it was done, but this is what we have to do now to, you know, make sure that we can, you know, continue to provide. So I kind of hope that helps a little bit with the compromises.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, Joe, I agree, you know, and I've always wanted to be able to show different ways you can grow, and again, like, show that relationship. You know, conventional farming is great. You know, I'm not going to knock that at all. But and lots of other different nations, you know, they didn't call what growing food, they didn't call that farming. You know, a lot of our food was foraged and gathered and hunted, and you know, being at this farm, you know, we want to show those two different relationships and two different ways you can grow.
Oh, you accidentally muted yourself, Rosebud.
How did I do that? I didn't even touch anything. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I would say that, you know, again, if you're interested in things like that, I mean, it's you have to have buy-in with other folks. You need to have a clear idea. You know, it's not unattainable, and people are doing it in lots of different ways. And I will say, you know, from a producer standpoint, you know, we are connected with the American Indian Foods Program, and we work with other producers, and we work with chefs. And one thing that we're seeing is that there's definitely there definitely isn't enough product to go around to sustain these chefs that are feeding like 300 people a day, like Sean Sherman and Brian Yazzie. And that demand is there. So I mean, I would say, I mean, if growing indigenous food on a large scale, you know, rings your bell, you should do it. You know, that's something, it's needed. You know, just couple thoughts there, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't let that hold you back.
That's great advice. And Stephanie, how do you feel about this question? I know, like, especially if you're working with trying to get Native youth into agriculture, there's a whole swath of agriculture that might not be branded or considered Indigenous, but how can Indigenous youth indigenize that space?
So it's gonna be a lot of uncomfortableness. It's gonna be a lot of hard work, and but it's necessary, because conventional ag is not environmentally sustainable. So it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. It will have to change, and I think Indigenous youth, and it's in our DNA, right? So it's in our blood memory. So I think more sustainable ways of agriculture are necessary, and I think our youth hopefully can, but I think doing things like how I think the best way to inspire the students that I work with is to take them to tribes that are actually doing the work. So you know, if I could take my students up to the farm at Little Traverse Bay Bend, that would be an amazing experience. So we've done wild rice workshops. So we went to Nottawassippi and took the students out and had a wild rice workshop where they learned all of the steps in the processing of wild rice, and it's work, but students were really into it. So I think So I think students want to connect, and I think that connection to culture and food is an incredibly important part of our culture. Connecting or reconnecting students with that, claiming and reclaiming our indigenous foods, I think is one way to do that. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. And there are Native students who have gone through the experience, and there's a lot of challenges there. But I think the more that we do that and the more that we're in those spaces, the easier it will get for those that follow us. So, you know, it's gonna take a lot of work, and it's not gonna be easy. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't lie to the students that I work with and, you know, sell them a dream that it's gonna be, oh, so great. They're gonna have challenges. And there's going to be a huge transition, and there's going to be a different way of thinking about food and and you know, what's important to maybe conventional or commercial or big ag is very different than what the values may be for the students. So that's a great question. And that's why I think we need more young folks in ag, because I think they're going to have the answers. Because I surely don't. I wish I did though. But I'm inspired by the work that a lot of Indigenous farmers and in communities are doing in the food sovereignty arena. And I think our young folks can learn a lot from them, and then they can keep making steps forward in that effort. So
Miigwech for that. Thank you for all of those words. And Joey, you brought up that the seeds want to come home. And I was wondering if all of you could talk a little bit more about that and the role that seed sovereignty and seed saving plays in Indigenous food sovereignty, and really is going to play in food sovereignty around the world. How are the seeds coming back to their communities going to help us create a more sustainable food system? Oh, that was a hard one.
I mean, you know, the relationship with these seeds are, well, my relationship with these seeds is ever evolving. I was able to travel to all the way to Oregon a few months ago, and what started as just stopping in communities to deliver sugar ended up being this beautiful seed journey that ended up happening, where we were trading seeds at our different communities and discussing our needs. And you know, I was able to get seeds in Oneida and take those, you know, to North Dakota, and then I, you know, take those seeds from North Dakota and, you know, make all the way to Oregon. I mean, it's these seeds, again, they want to be returned to the earth. They want to be cared for. I mean, and that's a big responsibility. It's not just, you know, having seeds and collecting them and keeping them, you know, on a shelf or, you know, anywhere. It's caring for your ancestors. I mean, and you know, there's such a huge movement right now, specifically around seeds. And I think that is driving some of this movement for sure. But understanding like what that relationship and your responsibility to those seeds are going forward, it's not just enough to have, you know, to have all these varieties. It's understanding where they belong and how to care for them, and moving forward. And not only teaching yourself, but teaching others how to care for them. You know, I believe that our seeds have been traded and traveled all over Turtle Island way forever. You know, I learned that the Dakota people have a word for seaweed, but they're landlocked people. So, I mean, we've been trading and we've been moving around this continent forever. And I mean, I think that there's such momentum right now with this food movement that there's no way that these seeds aren't gonna, you know, have a life of their own and continue to, they're gonna be here long after we're gone. So I think respecting that life and that responsibility is a big part of it all.
I don't know how you guys are going to be able to follow up that one, but you are more than welcome to try.
Oh, that's that's good. Thanks, Rosebud. Thanks. No, so you know, it kind of reminds me of like you know, our harvest feast we had last year. You know, at the end of the year we had a harvest feast. We brought the community out. You know, because in the beginning of the year, the community came out and planted the Three Sisters Garden together, you know, and then they came out to harvest, and, you know, we wanted to teach them how to, you know, braid corn and you know, pick seed, and, you know, and it was, I mean, I think we had what, 60, 70 people show up, you know, I mean, and they were all across from the state. You know, we had tribal citizens from, you know, Detroit, and, you know, we just had a whole bunch of people coming out, and it was just a, you know, a great day of, you know, what I like to call Minimum, you know, where it's the good life, and like, where everyone was just, you know, so excited for the work that we were doing, you know, and you could see that there was the hunger there for it, you know, that they wanted to learn more. And so, you know, that made me really happy. But then on the other side, you know, there's always a duality, is like, you know, some of those people, you know, I thought were just, you know, there for our seed, you know, like, ooh, and like Rosebud said, like, let's just put it, you know, in a jar and put it up on a shelf, you know, and you know, they're not meant to do that, right? You know, we keep enough for us to plant, to keep going, you know, and that provides us the, you know, diversity. And, you know, we have that relationship with them, you know, that we have to, you know, respect with them as well. So you know, that's why we have to continue to grow them and not put them in a shelf somewhere for them to be forgotten about. You know, because they still have life in them, and you know, they're the carriers of life. So you know, we want to, you know, plant them and make sure that you know, they continue to provide for us, and then the gifts that they give us, we give back. So you know, that's part of our stories and teachings with that. So did I beat you, Rosebud?
It's not a competition.
I know.
Smaller, higher. You just built right on. It was good. You built right on top of it. Stephanie, can you?
She's like my little sister. So
can you add some more bricks? Add another sister.
You know, I really can't top that, and I'm not even going to try. But I think I just want to echo what Rosebud said about these are our ancestors that need to come home. These seeds, in many cases, and like our actual ancestral remains, they're housed in museums and different universities, and they need to be repatriated, just like many of our ancestors have been, and we need to take care of them. And when I worked for my tribe, the Natural Resources Department was able to get some heirloom tobacco seeds. So it wasn't necessarily for food, but another part of agriculture that's incredibly important for us in you know, continuing our culture and our practices and what, you know, with our medicine. So although I wasn't a part of growing them, I did take youth from the education department, and we go weed, you know, for them and try to help them take care of it. But it was just so powerful, because these were hundreds and hundreds of year old seeds that we were growing. And yes, they were still alive, and they still were able to produce an important part. So, I mean, it's almost overwhelming when you think about those seeds and our ancestors, you know, taking care of those seeds and how important those seeds are to us. And then getting a chance to, like Rosebud and Joe have, to interact with those seeds is just really a huge connection that I think more people need to have with seeds. So thank you, Rosebud. I love that when you said that, because yes.
All right. So for this last question, I don't want to keep everybody too long, but I want each of you to tell us what you envision for an Indigenous future. What is food sovereignty? What is that going to look like? how are people going to be living and relating, and what's the land going to look like, what's everybody going to be eating, however you want to paint that picture for us. Help us imagine that beautiful future.
Well, for me, and it's something that I've been working on, I mean, it's going to be a lifelong journey, but I really would love to get to a point where I don't have to go to a grocery store. Whether I'm planning a meal for 5 people or 500 people, I want to be able to know that I have everything that I need. And I want to be a resource for people that want to do that. I want to be a model and show that it can be done, because it can be done in lots of different ways. I mean, the other thing, we talk about seeds and we talk about, farming, but the other food that we don't talk about are the wild foods, and the wild foods are showing up in lots of different ways. And I love being able to go out and, forage for things, for medicines, for food. I love being able to show my kids, oh, you can eat that. Did you know you can eat that? That's one of my most favorite things. And now my son will take our friends' kids out in the backyard, and they came around the corner the other day, and they were all eating purslane. This is like in the springtime or in the summertime, and they were eating purslane, and all the grown-ups were like, oh my God, what are you doing? And he was like, it's okay, it's purslane. You can eat this, and it's got high in vitamins. And he's just going on, and all the kids are just gobbling it up. That's what I want. I want to see our young people doing things like that. I mean, I know that, being in workshops with Linda Black Elk and people like her has like sparked something inside me. And if I can do that for other people, then that's definitely a future that I want to see. So.
For me, it's something that we really, sit there and think about, is like, where is this going? What are we trying to do? And like Rosebud said, we've been to different conferences, and we've been, across the country looking at other farms, other people doing the same work that we're doing. And, we have to, pay them their respects as well for the work that they do, because they, inspired us to do what we do. And hopefully we're inspiring the next people behind us to do what we do. So, we always have to, give them thanks for that. And, so one of the things, looking at is like, we get back to, our clan systems and, what we've done, and, who cares for this and who cares for that, and really, I'd like to see personally, and this is what kind of happens too. We're talking about, rural agriculture, right? And, we're all spread out, and we're not all very close together. And even on some ranches, they are, but, having those families, be the seed keepers of corn, or be the seed keepers of, squash, or, some of these other different things. I'd really like to see families, come back together and, take control of that, be like, we're the ones that are going to go out, and we're the fishermen, we fish. And then, we not just a plain farmer, but, we're the ones that, grow the corn, and we're the ones that grow the beans. I'd like to see that, all come together as a community where we have a spot to come in and, go to the grocery store, the new conceived grocery store, right? To, work, because then that builds community within, the families and, the different aspects of the tribe. And that's what we really need to do, is to keep building that community and that Minobamazoin. And I see it happening, slowly but surely. But again, it's just getting the youth involved and wanting to, see that vision as well.
So my imagination goes crazy sometimes, so I'm not going to share all that crazy with you all today. But I think one of the things that I imagine, or that I hope for, is that sort of already, Joe talked about it earlier, sort of already in the initial stages where we're moving away from the commodities and the incredibly unhealthy foods that we're forced to eat since settler colonialism and since European invasion here. Those foods are incredibly unhealthy and they've wreaked havoc. And I think Joe also mentioned the diabetes and the heart disease and some of the other ill health effects that those commodities have had on our communities. And it wasn't, I don't think it was an accident, but you know, but so my hope is that we can get to a place where Indigenous people have access to healthy traditional foods that will eliminate some of the early death and some of the horrible effects from diabetes and heart disease that we see in our communities. So that, I guess that would be what I would imagine and what I would hope for Indigenous communities in terms of food sovereignty.
Well, I think those are all visions of a future that we would all be very, very privileged to live in. And I think that you all are definitely inspiring. You know, I am inspired. The folks on this call, I think you are inspiring us as those before you inspired you. So Chimigwech for that. I just wanted, if there's anything else that you all want to offer, you know, you've given us so much of your knowledge and your wisdom and your experiences, and we really appreciate it. But I just want to make space for if you have anything else you'd like to add and you think we should know, how to help those futures become a reality, how we can support your work, how we can support Indigenous students, any tips, anything you'd like to, you know, to offer before we close.
Give them the land back. Oh,
Hashtag land back, read about it.
well, no, and really that's one of the things too, is like, you know, where is the land? Where is it coming from? Where are they going to farm if they don't have that land? Right. So, I mean,
yeah. I mean, I would say again, you know, if you are an Indigenous student, Indigenous person, you make sure you're using your voice. Don't be shy. You know, speak up, ask for help, be clear about what you want. I think that this work is beautiful. It's a lot of work. It's not easy. And it's great to align yourself with folks that have the same vision and the same mission as you. But be careful. I mean, we can all agree that not every institution, not every organization wants to decolonize. Not everyone is ready to indigenize their spaces. But it's happening. And I think that if we continue to have these conversations and be open and honest about the kind of future we want and actually fight for it, not just, you know, hashtag on social media, like actually do the work. I think we are, you know, giving our future generations something to look for. So I would just, you know, make sure you're aligning yourself with good people that can help guide you.
Stephanie, any closing thoughts from you?
Well, I just want to say thank you. I mean, I feel so blessed to have been asked to be here with Rosebud and Joe. I haven't met Joe personally, but I have seen Rosebud speak, and we grew up on the, well, I grew up a lot older than her, but on the Powell Trail, where, you know, our families were both a part of that all the time. So I just feel incredibly blessed to be here with you both. And please continue doing the work you're doing. It's so important. I'm so excited about it, and I'm so thankful to learn more about it. If you know any Indigenous students that are at MSU and they have younger siblings, send them over. I don't care if a Native student goes to MSU. I just want them to know that there are opportunities available, and wherever they decide to go, I will support them and help them. And indeed, most of the students that I work with don't choose MSU, but I will still be there to help them no matter what path they choose, wherever they decide to go, or even if they don't decide college isn't right for them. So, you know, I want to help students. So if you know Native students, that are 8th through 12th grade, send them my way. You know, I'll try to help them any way I can and just expose them to opportunities.
Thank you. And I think we would be remiss if, because I will say that in most webinars, land back doesn't come up. And I think it's important. So I wanna bring it back one more time. What does that what does that actually mean? Like, tell us what it means.
Joe, you do it. What do you all think it means?
Okay, so I mean, really, I mean, you look at this piece of, you know, this piece of property back here behind us. That's 300 acres of farmland that, you know, our tribe was like, you know, we need, you know, this farm, and it's not even in our reservation, right? It's just outside our reservation, and so yeah, you know, they purchased it because they saw and they knew that there was this need, you know, and so they purchased it to make sure that they could look out for the next several generations, you know, and so they're doing their part to honor, you know, what our past ancestors tried to do. And so, you know, but with that land back is, you know, to make sure that, hey, you know, we need it just for farming. We don't have a tax base. We don't have all this ways to drive, you know, our economy without land. And that's, if you don't have land, then you don't really have nothing, right? I mean, that's how, you know, the whole thing has worked. So, you know, granted, our tribe is still at, still suing the government, the state of Michigan, to, you know, recognize our boundaries and our, you know, so, you know, it's very, a very touchy subject, but, you know, we strive to have that, and we want to, you know, keep what our ancestors fought for us. So, I mean, resilient.
So I agree with Joe. I think, you know, we're still fighting for our treaty rights and tooth and nail. And our land has been shrunk and continues to be encroached upon right now to this current day, even the little tiny pieces that we still have. So I think realistically, we can't rely on the government to give it back. They're not going to do that. I mean, that's at least my thinking. So I guess my advice would be, go to the Indian casinos and spend a whole bunch of money, and we'll buy the land back ourselves with that money. So, I mean, I'm not trying to encourage gambling, you know, from, you know, if somebody is against gambling, I apologize, but realistically, that is a way. So, I mean, unless individuals want to make gifts of land back to Native people, I think tribes having economic development, casino is a one avenue that they're doing that, where they're getting enough income to be able to buy land back. And I think there are several tribes that are investing in trying to buy land back, you know, for the kinds of things that, for the kind of important work that Rosebud and Joe are doing, but also for a lot of other cultural and financial reasons. So you know, I wish I could say, yes, we're somehow going to get our land back. I mean, realistically, that probably isn't going to happen unless we get the money through economic development and you spending your money at our casinos so that we can buy it back ourselves. So, I mean, you know, but it does sound good. And I love the, you know, and I probably shouldn't have even started that way, you know, off when I made my initial comments, but I do appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk about it, because man, it would be nice to get our land back. You can start lobbying your board of trustees. They can give the land back. They can get some land back over there.
Why did I ask this question? I don't even know. It totally wasn't on purpose. Thank you. That, you know, that last one, I think a lot of people don't know that that's even an option. And so I think that what you have brought forth, the ideas you've put forward, hopefully people can take them and learn about them and think about them. And adding that to all of the beautiful knowledge that you've shared with us. We're so, so grateful. Chimigwech, thank you. Thank you to everybody at MANRRS. Thank you for letting me for moderating and hosting. I had a really great time. I hope everybody learned something from the conversation. Dolores, is there anything you want to add before we say goodnight?
Yeah, no, just thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out to our event tonight. Thank you, Sam, for moderating. You're amazing as always. Thank you, Stephanie, Joe, Rosebud, for coming to moderate with to be our panelists tonight. Like, you all are amazing. You've provided us all with so much knowledge and expertise within your fields and your fields of work. So I'm just so grateful for the knowledge that you've provided us with tonight. And thank you for, being a part of our organization's event. And we're just so happy to have you all. With that, I'm going to stop the recording right now, actually. But again, thank you so much. Our event is over. And I would just like to ask Stephanie and Rosebud and Joe and any of the e-board and Sam, if you guys want to stay after, the recording's over, just to send another thank you all to you guys for the night's over. But again, thank you all so much.